You know, ever since I made that video a few months back where I blue-torched an old Obama shirt to denounce my support for him and for government in general, I've kind of been having second thoughts because, I mean, Mr. Obama really did have a terrible time coming into office on the heels of George W. Bush, and let's be real, if we just arm the police in this country with a little bit more riot gear and some armored vehicles, and obviously throw in some old military equipment from the Iraq War for good measure, then the streets will finally be Sorry, I can't take myself seriously when I pretend to love the government, and I doubt that you can take me seriously either, because I've been pretty clear that I believe that the use of initiatory violence against otherwise peaceful individuals is completely unwarranted and wrong, and unfortunately, this is the basic premise of government, and it always has been. But as much as I don't consider myself an anti-government activist or an anti-government extremist anymore, as the Department of Homeland Security would probably like to label me, it doesn't mean that I love the government. There are a couple reasons why I won't take this label of anti-government extremism or activism as part of my identity anymore. The first one is that the media and the state have done a fantastic job corroborating to try to make anyone who opposes government seem like a crazy lunatic fringe conspiracy theorist racist who wants to shoot up cops in Walmarts and destroy America and the world as we know it. Yeah, there are some crazy, unstable people in the anti-government movement, but there are also a lot of crazy, unstable people who love government and want to use it to impose their will on others. So it has nothing to do with that, because most people who oppose government are just peaceful people who want their rights respected and don't want to violate the rights of others. So the real reason that I'm no longer an anti-government activist or extremist is because I don't want to live my life being opposed to something and always fighting something. I'd rather figure out what I value, which is peace and justice and truth and love and freedom above all else, and start to fight for these virtues. And unfortunately, government violates all of these. Because for thousands of years, governments have obstructed justice by exploiting others, whether ancient slaves, feudal serfs, Western imperialized nations, or minorities in America throughout history. For example, the United States justice system forces nonviolent criminals and whistleblowers to rot in jail, while war criminals and authoritarians walk free to attend book signings, conferences, and take presidential vacations. Governments have always waged wars, their leaders usually motivated by their own selfish lust for territory, resources, power, and profit as they send others to die for their pursuits. Violence is clearly the state's first resort, with 250 million humans murdered just by their own governments in the 20th century alone. The monarchs, dictators, and politicians who steer the state have always lied through their teeth to legitimize their authority, claiming, for example, that God ordained their right to rule, or as in North Korea, that they basically are gods, or, as in America, they cite falsified data to go to war and violate the rights of individuals abroad and at home. And all over the world, all governments will lie that their violations are for your safety. They have always subverted freedom, whether directly through blatant despotism, slavery, fascism, or communism, or with the better marketed representative kind, which favors incremental encroachment into every element of our lives. To convince the people they're free, they embolden majorities to overpower minorities with their vote, knowing full well that the decisions that matter are never decided by the people, and that there's nothing anyone can do about it because they have the most powerful guns. These long-standing historical traits of government sow only continued hate, fear, corruption, and violence, none of which foster love. Yet in the face of so much opposition, love perseveres. Socrates said that the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So while I still think it's vital to be outraged at the crimes that government has always committed against humanity and that it continues to, I've also found that shifting my perspective away from being anti-something and instead understanding the values that I want to cultivating and then acknowledging how government violates these amazing virtues has been a much more positive experience for me. So I hope that you'll join me in being an extreme, dangerous radical for peace and truth and freedom and justice and love above all else, and that you'll be so extreme that you refuse to make a double standard in your mind that tells you it's okay when government does it, just because this lie has been jammed down your throat by institutions and society and culture your entire life. And that if you don't want to join me in being a radical, that maybe you'll start to consider that if you still think that you can force your will on others, whether by means of a socialist government, a democracy, or a republic, no matter the form, you're the extremist, not me.